Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. In 1990, film director Tony Scott released a romantic thriller film that starred Kevin Costner. That film was called Revenge. Supporting Costner in the project was Anthony Quinn, Madeline Stowe, Miguel Ferrer, and Sally Kirkland. Also in a fairly small part, you'll see one of the earliest films for actor John Leguizamo. The storyline follows Jay Cochran, who's played by Costner, as he's a newly retired U.S. Navy pilot, as he travels to Mexico to spend some time with his friend Tibby Mendez, played by Anthony Quinn. Quinn's character is a powerful but corrupt businessman down there. While he's down there, he meets Tibby's beautiful wife, Maria, played by Madeline Stowe. Maria has become unhappy in her marriage to this wealthy man. A steamy affair develops between Maria and Jay, but when Tibby learns of the relationship from one of his henchmen, he sets out to get even with both of them. The film does a great job of selling you on its subject matter and sucks you in. It's based on a novella by Jim Harrison. The movie was done in Mexico, with Anthony Quinn playing this brutal millionaire that rules his own empire. Henchmen and killers surround him constantly, but he ends up lowering his guard to allow this friend of his to come into his inner circle. That friend is Kevin Costner's character, who ended up once saving his life on a hunting trip. Costner knows that he doesn't want anything to do with the unsavory business that Quinn's character is involved in. He really is just there to visit his cabin and take some vacation time after leaving the service. He feels that way until he meets Quinn's young wife, the beautiful Madeline Stowe. With Costner and Stowe falling in love at first sight, Costner decides to make himself at home at Quinn's sprawling hacienda, and they take another hunting trip together. All of these initial sequences in the project let you know that Quinn's character has deliberately made a decision to lift his ruthless guard to allow his friend to come inside where most people don't get the chance to. Once their affair begins, Costner and Stowe make it blatantly clear to any audience that watches it that Quinn's men know everything that goes on within miles of his house. We end up seeing Stowe make compromising telephone calls that she should have known would have been tapped. And then Costner and her decide to rendezvous at a local airport. They could have easily taken an ad out in the paper stating their intentions as blatantly obvious as they were. You'll see the usual steamy sex scenes, with one of them being in the front seat of a Jeep, moving more than 30 miles an hour. Eventually, Quinn's men come busting in, surprising the lovers, grabbing the faithless Stowe and beating Costner within an inch of his life. The only real reason that Costner was able to film the movie Field of Dreams was because this movie got delayed several times. Costner liked the Field of Dreams script, but was so frustrated with the delays on the start of Revenge that he finally told them he was going to do Field of Dreams. There was some pushback, but Costner promised to do the film as soon as Field of Dreams wrapped. The project was originally developed by New World Pictures, but the decision to hire Costner and Tony Scott drove the budget above what this small independent production company could afford. That's when Columbia then stepped in and agreed to fund the lion's share of the budget. After Jim Harrison's original novella, which was published in 1979, came out, the film version of Revenge became somewhat of a hot property in Hollywood. It had numerous directors attached to it over the years. Among some of these was John Huston, Sidney Pollack, and Jonathan Demme. When John Huston was attached to the project, he didn't want Kevin Costner as the lead. But after Costner had success with The Untouchables from 1987 and then Bull Durham from 1988, he had become powerful enough in Hollywood to produce it himself. And that was his original intent. In an early draft of the screenplay, the part of Tibby was specifically written for Jack Nicholson. Apparently Nicholson saw this character as somewhat of a dream role for him, and he was prepared to even direct the film at one point. I don't know, I find Anthony Quinn's portrayal of this character hard to beat, and for some reason, it doesn't seem like Jack Nicholson would fit that mold. The sex scenes that you see between Costner and Stowe were not rehearsed or choreographed at all in any way before shooting. The director simply set up 3 cameras and allowed the actors to find their way into the scenes. Everything seen during those sex scenes was improvised by the actors themselves. When Costner finally saw the cut of the film, he was really surprised at how they got into it during those scenes. Now, you see a character in the film that's played by Sally Kirkland. She ended up showing up late for her audition, and she was afraid that she had blown her chance with the director after she found out Costner had already left. Costner asked if she could come back the next day, and she said okay. She showed up early for that meeting. And then, to her surprise, Costner said, "Sally, don't you know who I am?" Kirkland responded to him, "What do you mean? You're Kevin Costner." He then went on to tell her and remind her that he had been a stage manager when Neil Young directed her and Dennis Hopper in the movie Human Highway. It turned out that Costner remembered her ever since that time, and he was the one that recommended her for the movie. But what makes Sally really stand out is a dubious honor that she holds. She was in a stage play in 1968 that was called Sweet Arrows. This production caused a sensation when it opened in New York because Sally Kirkland, the female star of it, was nude almost the entire length of the play, which lasted about 45 minutes. Because of this play, she has claimed that she was the first actress to perform completely unclothed in a legitimate New York theater. I have to admit, she does a great job in this film. She's a little-known actress, but boy, she really stands out in this production. Go back and take a look at this Costner film. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.